Welcome to the House of Legends podcast, where great women become exceptional. I am your host, Graciela, founder and CEO of the House of Legends by Graciela, a mindset coach and mother of three beautiful kids. My mission and passion is to provide you with the tools that will allow you to unlock and bring out the best version of yourself, which is the key to all change. Some of those tools are mindset, identity work, and emotional mastery. Not only that, but I will also bring you powerful conversations with legends like you, showcasing their journey, life work, and allowing us to learn from their experiences and insights. So don't miss an episode. Tune in each week to the House of Legends podcast and let's unlock the power of your own legend. Let's dive in today's episode. Welcome back to the House of Legends, where great women become exceptional. I am your host, Graciela, and in today's episode, we have a legendary woman in human design, Eden. If you can introduce yourself, Eden, let us know who you are and what got you to where you are right now.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Eden Carpenter, and I've been studying human design since 2017. We mentioned just before starting this that human design finds us. We don't find human design. It comes to us and it says, you need to learn about this. It's going to change your life. And that's exactly what happened to me. I actually found it online on social media. Someone posted about it and I was like, oh my gosh, let me look at this. And I pulled up my chart. I was like, absolutely not. That looks so complicated. There's so many shapes. There's so many symbols. Absolutely not. And so I pushed it off. And then all of a sudden, it was absolutely everywhere. And what really got me to actually say yes to it was I was sitting in a lecture for a psychology class with a professor who never used PowerPoints or visual aids for anything. He was a stand up there, have a conversation, just monologue kind of professor. And so he decided to have a PowerPoint. Never in the entire semester had he done this. And there was this technical glitch. You know how sometimes the formatting gets messed up on the text boxes. And so there was just text all over the page. And in the middle, the words human and design were next to each other. And they were not even in the same sentences, but I saw them. And I swear in that moment, there was like the heavens opened up and it was like sparkling, like, like you do this. So I was just sitting there. I'm like, okay, fine. This is really showing up everywhere. I'm going to have to try and figure it out. And so I did. I was doing research. I just Googled what's a manifesting generator? What are the white shapes in your human design chart? Just all of the questions. And it pulled me in. It all of a sudden described this unconscious behavior pattern that I had had where I was into the Myers-Briggs personality types and I was going to nursing school and I was doing everything that I could to be somebody who was lovable. And so I had all of this identity shadow in my G center where it was saying, if you could just figure out who you're meant to be, if you could just find that highest version of yourself, if you can figure out how you're meant to serve people, find your purpose, then all of a sudden people will love you and you'll feel good. You'll feel like you have a sense of direction. And when human design said, that's going to be inconsistent for you, like you're going to experience that sensation of not knowing what direction to go next sometimes, it was so relieving. It was like, wow, I have been searching for this answer for years and I don't need to find it. And so it gave me back so much energy that I didn't even realize I was putting out into the world, and I got hooked. So I started living by my design. I was working out better. I was studying better. I was getting better grades on tests. Everything was making sense. My relationship was working really beautifully. And so I decided to post on my Instagram account, like, hey, DM me your birth information and email address. Totally not sketchy. I will do a free human design reading because that's how my brain works, is it says, here's the puzzle, figure it out. And so I did. I'd never really had anyone respond to things. I had a couple of, free calendars and free things that I was trying to share about just being a spiritual person in college. And so no one had ever really responded to that. He's put out this like, hey, DM me your birth information. And I was like, okay, no one's going to really no one's going to grab onto this. This
And they're
sounds a
like,
little crazy.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
in the time
Sounds
that
like a
you were
phishing
born.
scam.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think it was 160 people reached out, sent me their information from one, maybe two posts on my Instagram. And I didn't even have 1,000 followers at the time. And so I was just in awe that there was hundreds, like over 100 people reaching out to me. And so I did. I went chart by chart. I put them all in a spreadsheet and I figured them out. And so it was a lot of here's the chart. Let me do the research. Let me figure it out. Let me put it in my own words and then present it. And so I sent out these free readings and said, hey, if you want to like dive a little bit deeper, we can do some coaching, we can do some sessions, we can get on a call. And that's how I signed my first couple of private clients in 2019. So it was 2 years after I'd been working with the system. I did 160 free readings. And the feedback that I was getting was, I have been trying to understand this for years, and the way that you explained it just makes so much sense. I've never heard it explained like this. And so I started offering coaching, I started offering sessions, and then people started asking for courses. Like, you're a really good teacher. You're explaining this so well. Can you share with us, like, just teach us how to interpret the system? And so I created my first digital course. It was called Life by Design, and just very basic chart reading skills. And that led to my first group program that led to, at that point, it was like 2020, and we were just going into the pandemic. So I'm in my final year of nursing school. We went on spring break and never went back. So I graduated nursing school online. And during that time, during the pandemic, I had so much free time. And so I said, I'm just going to put energy into my business. I'm just going to share about human design and talk about this content. And I launched a program around patterns of prosperity and deconditioning your relationship to money. And I had my first 5-figure month. And then the next month was a 20K month. And then the next one was a 30K month. And then 40 and 60. And it just kept growing. It grew so fast. And it was very much in response. And then around that time, I actually only lasted 6 weeks as a registered nurse because my business grew so fast, and I wasn't supposed to start my nursing job until the fall, because at the time during COVID, like, it was not really safe to have nursing students in the hospital. So there was a lot of rules, and like, they were shutting down certain floors, and they didn't have the resources to be training new nurses at the time. And so the floor that I was on, they're like, yeah, you'll start sometime in the fall if that's okay. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So we get a new house, we're moving, we're doing all these things. My business is blowing up. I had my first 6-figure launch, and I was like, I don't even know how this happened. And then my nursing job says, hey, you're actually going to start in like 2 weeks. And so we moved into our house on a Friday. We started doing some renovations. We're like, boxes everywhere. I have this massive program that I'm running that I thought I was going to have more time for. And then my nursing job comes in. And all of a sudden, I was so frustrated. I was angry going to work. I was mad that I had to be there. I was not present. I was just miserable in my energy. And so I ended up going to Sedona to do a one-on-one kind of a VIP day with Lauren of Love. She's a self-projected projector. I adore her so much. And she was just wanting to celebrate and do all the things like, oh my God, you had a 6-figure launch. Like, that's incredible. You've just blown up your business. You've made 6 figures this year as opposed to like 20K last year. Like, this is amazing. And I was so exhausted. I was so exhausted trying to keep up with nursing, renovating a house, and building this entire business. And so she said, do you need nursing? And my identity was like, yes, like, I got this contract. Of course, I have to be here. I have to be in nursing. And it was a big identity shift. And so we decided, like, okay, I'll phase this out over the next 6 months. I'll spend a couple of months here. I'll get some experience, and we'll work on an exit plan. And I was driving from Sedona to the airport. And then when I got home, there was another like 2-hour drive. So the whole day of traveling. And the next day at my job, I was supposed to be doing an observation day. And so I wasn't actually working on the floor. They wanted me watching surgeries and in the GI lab and in the ER. And it was just standing and observing. And I was just thinking about being in a hospital for 12 hours, just standing and watching there. And I felt that sensation of,
Yeah.
I'm going to be so frustrated. Like, I physically cannot make myself do that. And I have a lot of willpower. And so it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow.
Mm.
And it just like the tears, all of the emotions came through. And of course, I had to travel home and then tell my husband because this came out of left field for him. He's like, what do you mean you're going to quit your job? You just got it. You just got the degree. You just got the job. What do you mean you're quitting? This doesn't make any sense. Your business has only been successful for a handful of months. Like, his mind was freaking out, and it was something that like I had to do. And I told him, like, I understand that you don't understand this. You will. Like, trust me. I know this sounds crazy, but you're going to understand. And a couple of months later, he was like, I get it, I see it, I understand. And now we're several years later, and he really gets it. So yeah, that's how I got into human design and where I am today.
Oh God, I really love it. It sounds like perfect synchronicities. And one of the things that you mentioned really impactful right here is like whenever we find something, and sometimes we feel kind of the resistance, we put it aside, or we put that as a second part. But when it comes back, it's like, hey, actually, God, universal source, is trying to grab my attention. And when we move towards that, it's actually when we have those aha moments. One of the things that I would love for you to mention, you mentioned one of the parts that your identity was turned, right? Like, I supposed to be a nurse. I was invest time, invest money. I do have the title now. What was that after that day that you said, investing 12 hours of your time, just seeing other people, just seeing the surgeries? What was the main shift for you to decide to let go that part of you, because that was a big part of your identity as a nurse?
Yeah, there was a couple of things, but I realized that I was really only going into nursing because it was the path of least resistance. Like,
Mm.
science has always made sense to me. I've always enjoyed science. The human body has always made sense to me. And so it felt easy and it felt like an opportunity to help people. And that's what I wanted to do. But even through nursing school, I had these doubts of, like, am I really meant to do this? I don't know. Like, this sounds a little boring. This sounds stressful. This
More
sounds,
action.
yeah. I'm like, I don't know if I really like this. And so I, mentioned it to a couple of professors, and they said, "Oh, it's just nursing school. Like, it's just the extra paperwork. It's just nursing school. Like, you're so good at this. You're such a good student. You're in the top of the class. Like, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be such a great nurse. Once you get through nursing school, it'll be different." And it wasn't. It was
Mm.
not different. And it's like there was this sensation, this inner knowing of, I knew I wasn't going to be a nurse for long. I
Mm.
always had that knowing of, like, I'm not going to be a nurse for long. And when I thought about it driving home, I was thinking about how I said, like, okay, I'm going to quit in 6 months. And I was like, why?
Why 6 months?
Why do I have to wait 6 months
Yeah.
to make the decision that I know I'm already moving towards? I was like, is it the money? I'm like, it's not the money. I'm losing money by spending time in that job. With like traveling, spending days there, I was losing money in that job. And so I thought about that. I'm like, okay, I'm losing money. And as a manifesting generator, I'm supposed to be satisfied. And I thought about it, and there was no satisfaction. No
Mm.
satisfaction in being there, no satisfaction in showing up for 6 months. And that 6 months was really just an arbitrary number that was a condition. It says, I can quit, but I can't quit so soon. That looks unreliable. If I give it 6 months, then I can say that I gave it my best effort. But
Got it.
that was like, I looked at it, I really sat with it, and I realized that I I didn't want to be there, and everything in my energy was telling me I didn't want to be there, and it had been telling me that. And then of course, like that realization hit and all of this conditioning. And when we have conditioning, it's very much like our mind says, okay, I can have what I want if the conditions are this. So
Mm.
it's like, I can quit my nursing job if it makes sense to other people. It looks safe. I don't look crazy. I gave it my best effort. So I had this list of criteria of it's safe to go after what you want if X, Y, and Z happens. But it's not safe, it's not acceptable to just do what you want. And so I thought about, I'm like, okay, who am I staying in this job for? And I realized I was staying in it for my husband because he supported me through nursing school. And so it felt like this opportunity of, he supported me. I finally got the job. And that felt like I was disappointing him. And I was like, what if he sees me as unreliable? And so I uncovered this fear of what if he leaves me? And that's really
It was
that's
deeper.
like G center. Yeah, that's that identity center because it's about lovability. And so I had identified with he loves the nurse version of Eden. He accepts this, he understands this, it's reliable, it's safe, he trusts this. And if I decide I'm going to jump over here and be a witchy online human design expert and I'm going to quit my job, like, is he going to think that I'm crazy and manic? And
It's
so it
kind of
was
like, yeah, I'm like, yes.
yeah, it's
For
like,
mine.
can he love all of me? And
Yeah.
so when I really confronted that, there was difficult conversations. He didn't get it at first. It did trigger him. It was scary. We had several conversations where he's like, are you sure? Because this sounds absolutely crazy. And he had to see me do it and move through it for him to really understand it. But after he did, like I had a moment where I was like, okay, I love him so much and I do not want him to leave me. But if he can't accept all of me, then that's the divine path for both of us. Like if he can't love all of me, which includes this witchy human design energetic side of me, then that's what's meant to be. And so I confronted that fear of abandonment inside of me on the way home. And in those conversations where I was telling my husband, I know you don't get this, and I have to do it anyways.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is deep. I think that is really, really deep. And you mentioned something really, really important, which is the condition, the condition that we have. We have so much condition, and the conditioning is when actually we have to have those uncomfortable conversations for the mind. And sometimes people, like you said, get triggered, and because they are accustomed to one version of ourselves, and by always being really true to ourselves, it's like a different person, I will say,
yeah,
right? And I could really identified. I before I was entering into this world, I was in the dental field, and it's like has nothing to do with this. Like I was serving people, but one part of me, like you said, it was like, this is life's supposed to be more. I mean, I'm serving people and having what's supposed to be like a what looks successful for other people, like you said, like having the job, um, working in a beautiful place, having all the vacations, but it's like something is not clicking. And if I do this, uh, I'm betraying myself.
yeah.
Like, and I think that is one of the biggest parts of the human design, bringing the condition that we have, right?
Yeah, deconditioning is a big part of the process because as children, we learn through associative learning and unconscious learning, which is A plus B equals C. And so we receive energy from other people. Like maybe for me, it was that identity center. I, would do something, I would get yelled at and be like, oh, A plus B equals C. Me being this person equals I'm not lovable. It's not safe for me to be. I was like very quiet. I was the good child. I have seven siblings, and so there was a lot of energy. There was a lot of people in the household, and it was kind of chaotic having so many people around. And so I was the second oldest. I'm the oldest daughter, and so there was a lot of responsibility. And so I was the good one. I never got in trouble. I didn't ruffle feathers. I didn't argue. I was quiet. I took care of things. I was very self-sufficient. I didn't ruffle any feathers. And so I had that identity and that the conditions where it's safe for me to exist if I'm not ruffling feathers and if
Mhm.
I'm not irritating other people. And so I learned how to really hold my energy back and not say how I was feeling. And as an emotional authority, that's a big deal. And so I was holding in my emotions. I'm like, no, it's not safe for me to feel this way. I was hiding them. And people can feel that in my energy. If I'm feeling something, empaths will pick up on that and they're like, okay, I think maybe you're actually feeling this. And then I'll reject it and be like, no, I can't feel that. I don't want to feel that yet.
Yeah, and oh my God, this is so like, and you mentioned seven siblings. I do have, we are five, so all girls. Like I grew up with just sisters, so a lot of energy and as well as you mentioned that I'm an emotional authority as well. So when it comes to emotion for me, it was like I'm the good girl. I'm the one that you said like I behave well. I take care of my as little sisters back then, and for me it was like, but I don't feel like people can tell even on my face like I'm something is not clicking, but it's like I'm okay, I'm fine. But now I understand that was just a self protection mechanism of me, like you said, having the equation A plus B is C. I'm gonna be this way because if not,
Mhm.
I don't know if I let myself feel that, or if I let myself moving some things around, I'm not gonna be lovable. There's so much
Yeah.
conditioning on that, right?
It really is. And in our defined centers, we tend to, the conditioning will show up as I'm too much. And so as an emotional authority, we both feel like sometimes our emotions are too much. And we're like, why am I so emotional? Why do I have these big feelings? And, sometimes we don't want to have them, but they're there and they are a part of us. And so we get to accept that, like, when we're honoring our emotions, we're doing what's best for everyone that's involved. Because if we say yes to something that's actually a no for us, our energy is not going to be behind it. And we are going to feel miserable the entire time. And so will everyone else. Like you can tell when someone doesn't want to be in the room. You can
Yeah,
tell when someone doesn't want to be there and it impacts people.
activity.
Yeah, they start to try and get you happy and then you're like, "No, I don't want to be happy." And
Like,
you might like resist it even more and they might try and cheer you up and that's the nature of energy is to neutralize. And so our conditioning in Defined Center says, I'm too much. I have to hold this back. It's not safe to be big, bright, beautiful, all the things. And then in the undefined energy, we feel like we're not enough. And so we're like, okay, I have to do more of this. I have to do more of this.
oh,
I have to do more of this. And so it's the identity. It's like I have to be someone else. I have to be more in order to be lovable.
yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah,
What does
that's
it mean to be someone else? Like to be more, I'm me. And if I can accept myself and love myself, then so can other people.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, you're describing like the way that I felt before. Like I was trying to do like I arrived to one point in that I didn't know how much was enough. I was just like trying, like you said, compensate things, and I was resentful. Like inside of me was like, fuck them, fuck everyone. I was like, excuse my language here. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck off. But I was trying to do much, and like you said, I was not even aware that even my energy was like kind of. I was not behind that. I was just through going through the motions and feeling like terrible,
Yeah.
right?
Especially as a manifester, you have that undefined sacral center. And so that relates to effort, productivity, work, and satisfaction. And so for the conditioning there, it might be like the conditioning in the undefined sacral center says, I'm not doing enough. I have to do more. I have to hustle more. If I put in more effort, then I'll make more money. I have to spend more time on this. I have to keep up. Oh my gosh, why does everyone have so much energy? Everyone seems to be satisfied. I'm not satisfied with this. There's like frustration because you're trying to generate and you're not designed to generate consistently. You manifest, you initiate, you put your emotion behind your action, and your emotion is actually a lot of the fuel and the motivation and the energy that you're using. It's not coming from sacral energy, which is that like, ooh, that's fun. I'm enjoying this. I like doing this. I like doing the hard thing. And so, yeah, you'll see generators and manifesting generators, the 65% of the population who, when they find their thing, they're like, oh, I love this. And I can just keep going and going and going. And for you have energy cycles where you'll have a phase of initiation and a lot of creation, and then your energy will dwindle. And you'll say, okay, I'm kind of getting bored with this. I need to step away. You'll go into an inner winter where you're reflecting, and it's very much like the energy of fire. Like manifestors to me are the element of fire, where if you're creating fire, it needs a big spark. It needs fuel. It needs a lot of energy to turn nothing into something that's alive. It's like big energy that comes through. And so your energetic well, like your power, it takes time to build up to that level. And then you use a lot of it to initiate and get that flame going and get it moving, get the movement going, get the program up, get whatever it is going. And then at some point, you need to step away. And so at that point, you're looking for who can tend to this fire, who can just like keep adding material, who can make sure that it's not getting too big so that I can go take a nap because I got it started. I did all of the work. I initiated, and now my energy is drained and I need to go into a restorative space. And so you will have cycles where there's just phases where your body's saying, I need rest. I don't have energy. I don't have motivation to do things. And your mind can come in and say, you're not doing enough. You have to be productive. Everyone else keeps going. Why do you need to rest? You didn't do that much. And it just tells you all these things. But intuition doesn't use guilt and shame as motivating factors. Intuition uses love. It speaks from the frequency of love. And so it's never going to say, you have to do this or you're going to be bad or why haven't you done this? That's the voice of fear. That's the voice of conditioning because that's how other people tried to motivate us in the past, where teachers they would shame us or parents would shame us or guilt us or get mad at us to try and get us to be, more activated if you did any sports. Coaches would do this to you as well. And so we motivate ourselves in ways that other people know how to use to motivate us. And for you, like, it's not from sacral energy. It's not from that, like, ooh, this is so satisfying. I love this. It comes from your emotions. It comes from how you feel and the impact that you want to have. Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned really something important and I was not honoring that back in 2022. I was like generating like 20, not 24/7. I'm not exaggerating that, but I was like doing, and nothing was working. And I was, of course, serving people, having clients, but I was feeling really resentful back then. And I arrived to the point where I felt burned out and like, I have to remove myself from this because if not, I don't know what's going to happen. So that was the time when uh human design came across and I was like, oh wow, I was acting like the positive way in alignment to my energy, to myself, and honoring resting has been one of the things for me, like right now, like because it was like, I'm not doing nothing. So how this is supposed to be the business, right? And that's why I think it's really important also when we bring this as an entrepreneur, is like understanding that our energy is one thing, and also bringing the systems. For me, having systems is important. And for back then, I was like, I'm doing it, and just I have my assistant, but I want to be hands-on because I know better, like me. I was doing the things, and right now it's like, well, I have to just trust, putting some things aside, systems. Like you said, I have to remove myself, and that has been one of the biggest things for me. And also, before I was trying, like I said before, going all the time, like even live or doing things. And right now I understand that for me, you can correct me here in the manifestor energy, for me it's potency. Like when I feel like really, for me, less is more. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Less is more. More is more is for generators.
And yeah, and like you said, most of my sisters are actually generators. So I was like, I never felt like I was tuning in with them, right? And they were doing amazing things and things like that. I was like, I don't have the energy. I don't feel like that. But I was trying to push. And I do believe that human design is a it's a game changer for every single entrepreneur.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I've seen so many people who, like, the people who are really in alignment and doing things in their business as entrepreneurs and who are really successful are following their design whether they know it or not. Like, I can look at celebrities, I can look at I like to look at influencers, like people who are blowing up really quickly. I'll be like Googling their birth information, trying to find their chart. And I'll see like the content that's doing really well for them is the content that's around their purpose and the content that's in their design. And when they're, when generators are conversational in their content, then that really works for them. You're giving people things to respond to. When projectors are guiding people through their content and with their language, it feels really natural and people resonate with that. That's like inviting people in. When manifestors inform and use bold factual statements, it's either really magnetizing or really repelling. And so when you're honoring who you are, the authenticity frequency just comes through and it's so magnetic. And so whether you know about your design or not, if things are thriving, if you're feeling good, if things are going really well, chances are you're in alignment with your design. And there's nothing we have to do to embody our design. It's who we already are. And so we can use it to decondition and, remove some of those conditions of it's only safe to do this if this. We can tear that apart and detangle that, but there's nothing we have to do. Like you already are a manifestor. You've been a manifestor your whole life. You can look back and see evidence of yourself informing, asking permission as a child, getting angry, feeling that sensation of peace. You already have evidence that that's in your energy and who you are. And so there's nothing we have to do to be more ourselves. It's really just a permission slip to be who you've always wanted to be. Yeah.
That is so true. And when I look back, like you said, I see those moments of like when I was feeling at my best, really peaceful, or when I was feeling really angry. And for me, informing has been also another challenging thing because I was confusing informing with asking for permission.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to ask for permission. I'm deciding to do that thing. But I think that also in business has changed the game as well. Like, because before I was just doing all the things behind the scenes and just putting out something out there. And it was like, what in the hell? What are you doing? Because I was not informing, right? So I would love to ask you, Eden, if someone is new or maybe human design, actually, there's, like I said, so much information here online and all that. But if someone is curious and is deciding to explore their chart, what is the first recommendation? Because we can go online and do it ourselves, but when we see those boxes, those triangles, those numbers, those channels, it's overwhelming. Or sometimes we go like myself, we buy the books, we read all the things, and it's like, oh, okay, it's another thing. So what is your recommendation instead of like absorbing or like memorizing all the information, or just see them and say to ourselves, it's too much, I don't want to do that. What is
Yeah.
your recommendation?
I recommend learning about your strategy and authority first and foremost, because if you can figure out your strategy is what you do when you don't know what to do. It's my favorite thing whenever I'm in that, like, oh God, I don't know what to do. I'm waiting to respond. What am I responding to? Where in my world is there something to respond to? Where is the energy rich? And so I could just use that to navigate my world. And then your authority is your intuitive decision-making process. It is a map for how you make intuitive decisions every single time. And so I would suggest learning about those two in whatever format you like. Where do you like learning about content? There's human design content everywhere. It's on YouTube, it's in blogs, it's in books. You can get on a session with somebody. I do readings. You can do readings with anybody. It's on TikTok, it's on Instagram, like wherever you like to learn about it, you find resources. Just search human design and explore your strategy and authority, and then experiment with your strategy and authority to dive deeper. So use your intuitive process to feel through, like if I'm an emotional authority, I get to feel through, what do I want to study next? Do I feel like listening to a podcast? Do I feel like reading a book? What do I feel like learning next? And then you actually get to use and experiment with the process as you dive deeper, because some people will be really drawn to learning all of the things and other people will not. I've known people who have really just worked with strategy and authority. I know people who focus very much on the variables and like the health information that's a little bit deeper. I love to focus on the body graph. I feel like the channels and the centers are a really interesting way of understanding things. I know people who focus only on the centers. And so there's so many different I mean,
After
I've been studying it for over 7 years and I still feel like I don't know everything. Like there's still things that I want to learn. Yeah. So follow your strategy and authority, learn about your intuition, and experiment with that. See what bits of information stand out to you. And something I think is so fun is to look at your human design chart. Like if you've never looked at it before, look at it and just write down what your initial thoughts are. Like when you see that chart for the first time, what comes up in your mind? Because one of the first thoughts that came into my mind was because I have that identity center undefined, but there's a lot of definition all over there. I was like, oh, well, of course my heart looks empty. I was like, I have like an empty heart. Like that doesn't feel good. Like, what does this mean? But looking at the body graph, there's space in that kind of chest area. I'm like, do I not have heart energy? Like, what's going on here? Is my heart chakra blocked? Like, and so it's just interesting to see like what your initial thoughts are, what draws your interest. Like literally just write down, ooh, the green triangle looks fascinating. Or like, what's the red square over here? Like, what does this number mean? Wherever your interest is drawn is intended for you. You can trust your interest. And so just get curious, like what looks interesting and Google it, play with it, find information about it somewhere.
I love it. And I think using those first two pieces that gave us a lot, like you said, even on the decision making, how we enter into projects or what are the things that really feel good to ourselves. One of the things that I realized, just to give an example real quick, is that I used to be the one that I was making decisions right away. Like I was saying yes to things or saying no to things right away.
Mhm.
Because I was buying this idea that if you don't make a decision right away, the idea is gonna die or whatever, And the self-development industry is like you have to make the decision really, really fast and change it really, really slow if you change the decision.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like when I reflect back, some of the things were working, but some of the biggest challenge of my life was when I was saying yes to things that I was one part of me was saying no, but I was feeling the pressure to say yes. So I think that piece is really, really important.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is decision making.
Yeah.
It's decision making and nervous system regulation. That is the
Mhm.
basis of entrepreneurship is can you stay calm enough to access your higher thinking and use your intuition regardless of what's going on right now. So if like you're making millions or you're getting a hate video, like whatever it is, entrepreneurship can be kind of chaotic. And it's this interesting journey where we have control and we have decision and we have power to make decisions. And our decision making process is how we run our business. Like you are your greatest asset as an entrepreneur, and understanding how you operate will help you understand your entrepreneurship journey. Yeah, I love human design for entrepreneurs specifically.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is, I think, one of the things that I always say, we can live without human design, we can live without so many things, but why we don't want to add something that it's gonna pay off for the rest of our lives, like
Yeah.
this. Like this is just like you can use it for everything, like being an entrepreneur for your relationships. Even you mentioned something about the variables, about the way that you eating, environment. There's so many things.
Yeah, there really are. And you can even go into there's pet charts. I like to run my charts for my pets and
Oh my
see what
God,
they have
yeah.
active. Yeah, you can run pet charts, you can do family charts, you can do business like team charts. Those are always so fascinating to look at how groups of 3 to 5 people work together. It's so fascinating. You can look at like your life purpose, what kind of partnerships you like, compatibility. There's so much that you can dive into.
Yeah, I didn't know about the pets, so that's interesting. It was, yeah. And also you mentioned about the teams. I think that is also really important when we start expanding, and especially as entrepreneurs, what are the people that we are meant to not only hire, but actually vibe with? What are their
Yeah.
energies to bring into the team, right? Because if I bring another manifestor, we're gonna just be like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
So,
I need people who I change my mind a lot as an emotional manifesting generator with a triple split. I'm all over the place. And so I'll be writing that emotional wave, writing that emotional wave. And I'm like 99% sure I'm going to do something. And then last minute, the intuition hits. And I'm like, nope, we're going in this direction. And so I changed my mind a lot. And there was a lot of guilt around that. But really, it was my intuition says it gives me the next direction, like go in this direction. And then as more information comes in, it says, okay, pivot, go in this direction. It doesn't mean that I was going in the wrong direction in the first place.
Yeah.
It meant that I got to my turn. I got to the point where I'm supposed to turn onto the next street. I got to the next step. And so I see it as like you can't mess up your purpose. You cannot mess up your fate. Everything that you've done is exactly perfect. The mistakes you've made were perfect because we can't appreciate perfection. We can't appreciate like success without mistakes. If we didn't make mistakes, how would we know we're doing things in a way that feels good? If everything felt the same, we wouldn't have that contrast. We wouldn't know. And so, yeah, you get to learn through those mistakes and you get to grow upon them and you get to play with your energy in whatever way you want.
Yeah, and you were really right there. I mean, if the duality, if we don't understand what is white, we never understand what is black. So it's just it's also becoming aware of that and also trusting ourselves. I think when we start to understand the human design or energetics and follow our authority and understanding how we operate at an energetic level with the trust, I think we trust more for decision making
Yeah.
in moves that we get to make, or intuition. We don't actually, or maybe the mind can come and try to justify all things like that. And you mentioned one thing, sometimes we get to feel guilty because we said yes to one thing and the next week we are changing our mind. But we develop that trust that it's just that no matter what is going on out there, we got ourselves. So, and I think that is
Yeah.
also key as a leaders and also
Oh,
having,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. I like to say you are the smartest person in your world about everything that involves you because you are the only person who has the full story. You are
Mm.
the only person who has been there every single day. You are the only person who knows everything about you. You're the only one. And so if you can't trust yourself, like why would you trust somebody who only knows a fraction of you
Oh,
more than yourself?
that is so deep. In can you repeat it again?
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so deep because sometimes we trust more like and I'm not saying that as a guides, mentors, leaders, we always learning from someone else, but when it comes to that, it's like really we are the only ones that we have the full spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, when you get to know somebody, there's a little version of me, this concept, this mental concept of who Eden is that lives inside of your mind. And that's completely unique to you. You know a version of me that is based off of all of your interactions with me, but I have no idea all of the interactions you've had with me. Like I know some of them, yes, but you've probably interacted with my content in ways that I wasn't actually there and present with. And so you have a concept of who I am. My husband has a concept of who I am. My cousins have a concept of who I am. My siblings have a concept of who I am. Everyone has this imaginary version of who I am in their minds. I am the only one who has the full story of who I am. And so I can let somebody who has an imaginary understanding and they've gathered some data about me and they've observed me for 15 minutes, for a couple of hours, for a couple of months, maybe a couple of years. Or I can be with the person who has not just been there, but who's felt it, who's had the memories, who has the intuition, who can sense what I sense in my body. You are the only one who can hear your intuition. And
Mm.
so, of course, you are the smartest person in your world. You are
Mm.
the smartest person in your world about everything that revolves around you because you are you. You are your world.
Yeah, that is so deep. And I have to share this with the audience as well. Like I actually those words and not even words is those that that the thing that you just said, I'm not even considering those words because it was even more deeper. It was something that I want to know when I use the word needing that I was requiring to hear right now. There's so
Mm.
it was just like landing home. And I'm just so grateful for that because like there's some phrases that I just like shift. And right now I have just like a mind-blowing thing like, oh yeah, fuck, damn, yeah, that's so fucking true. Yeah,
You're the only one.
we are the only one, Aiden. Aiden, before we wrap up our conversation here, if you can share with us where we can find you, what are the ways that, excuse me, get to work with you together?
Yes, I am primarily on Instagram at I am Eden Carpenter, and my website is also just my name. I am kind of secretly working on a second brand that will be launching in a couple of months or sometime soon. So we'll talk about that when it's ready to launch. But
Yeah.
I do readings, I have programs, I have courses, I have a whole bunch of offers for learning human design, for working with it, for understanding yourself a little bit better. And we have a lot of fun. Like my entire brand is around the
I love the
inner work
color.
doesn't have to
Yeah.
be, yeah, it doesn't have to be boring. Shadow work doesn't have to be scary. Like it can be fun. And like one of my gifts is like shame alchemy. I have a core wound of shame, and the medicine is humor. And so anything that you're ashamed of, I can make you laugh about. So we'll be like, oh, isn't that cute? Isn't that adorable? Isn't that funny? Like we can just laugh about it. And so, yeah, I take a very fun approach to personal development because why not? Like, we like manifestation because it feels like magic. We don't have to be all scientific and serious about it in sort of quantum physics. Like, we can, but
Right.
also we just want to have fun. Like, why can we, like, let's just have fun.
Yeah, and yeah, and I'm gonna make sure that we're gonna put your details here on the video as well and also on the platforms. But when I enter into your on your Instagram, it's like yeah, it's playful, it's colorful, it's like oh, I feel like in a candy store. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
like a child. Yeah, and it feels so fresh and it feels like so light, like it feels right. It doesn't feel heavy like it, like if the
No,
colors and even your picture of your profile is so beautiful. So it's like, hmm.
I'm covered in paint. It's so fun.
Yeah, and those are the details that I mean that draws to you like
Yeah. Yeah, we can do the super serious photo shoots and like that works for some people, but like I'm a messy creative person. Like I'm in a sweatshirt, I'm not wearing makeup. Like I'm this is just who I am. Like I never do my hair, and so I'm not going to, I've done the professional photo shoots and the things like that, but it didn't
right.
feel authentic. And so I was like, okay, I just want to show people that like I'm messy and I'm colorful and I'm all over the place and you can be too. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I think when we own that, I'm you're describing the positive like in the pictures, just in the pictures. I love the blazers and all those things. And I was trying back then just to be like just whatever, like I didn't feel right. Like, no, this is who I am, right? So when we honor who we are and even in the pictures, so the way that we get to look, it's just like um it's just more authentic. It's actually people
Mhm.
vibe right with that.
Yeah. It
Well,
felt right for me. Like the photos were in my backyard. I painted like a canvas kind of thing, just like a tarp, put that up behind me. I had my husband out there. My dogs were jumping around and playing. And he's like, "Okay, just like put paint all over yourself." And I'm just gonna I'm like, "Okay."
let's do it.
And yeah, I was like, "Okay, I want you here." And I was kind of directing him and we're having fun. And he's like, "Okay, now you need to go shower because that's a lot of paint."
Hello thing right there.
Yeah, it was, in our environment, just
Mhm.
within our own energy, and that felt so fun. So, yeah, like you can have fun and branding can be powerful without it being serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And like I said, when I was seeing your content, it was like it feels so right. It feels like really light. It feels attractive. It doesn't feel dense or heavy. It feels good. And it's not only just the content, but also the whole entire energy, which is you, right?
Yeah.
So, Eden, before we close up, I always ask this question, and by this moment, we already know, but what is your superpower, Eden?
My superpower is seeing people. I see people at a very deep level, and that's actually like because of that undefined G center. When I'm in conversation with somebody, I empathize with their whole story. And so I see people at a soul level, and that's my greatest gift is being able to see the light, the power, the inner child inside of other people and calling them out in a really fun way.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is one of the most powerful gifts. And not only because you are coaching people or having the one-on-ones, but the most important part is that you see the whole spectrum. You don't see just one part of the entrepreneur. You're like you said, you're able to see what is behind that and bring it out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Eden, for this conversation. It was really fun and I cannot wait to see what you're launching. You know that's gonna be on the in a couple months ready, but I cannot wait for that.
Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, thank you, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. Your presence is greatly appreciated, and it truly means a lot to me. If you could support us by leaving a 5-star review, it will help us to connect with more extraordinary and influential women like you. With that being said, thanks once again, and let's look forward to an amazing and legendary week ahead.